the developers were starting to listen a little bit. It finally seemed like we were getting some of the things that we wanted. And then you wake up on, what was it, Friday morning or something like that, and you see a post from Multiversus on all social media platforms saying Season 5 will be our last. And that really came as a shock to most of the community. I had a lot of people messaging me, considering how I told you my plans to start in org. All of those tournament players message me. People that watch my streams message me. They're like, Draco, what's happening right now? How did this happen? This is such a shock to me. I'm so sad, you know, because with the player count being how it was, the community is really tight knit. So everybody essentially knows everybody. And it's been really tough for a lot of those people. A lot of people stop playing altogether now that they know the game's dead. Personally, my perspective is it's not over until it's over. I'm gonna play the game until it shuts down, just so I can enjoy my last few months on it. But it definitely was a shock to a lot of people how they did it so abruptly.
What I was thinking about when you said that too was, how do you feel about, let's say this patch comes out, right? And it leaves the game in the perfect place, and then the game closes out, right? Do you foresee like any kind of future with still running events like this? Like you said, you're riding till the wheels fall off, right? Do you still see some kind of like offline when the servers go down? Do you still see some way to play offline and maintain still kind of like some form of community like that?
The thing with that is, if you know about Parsec.
Yep.
So they have been running, they're like very, very tiny amount of people that run communities on Parsec for beta on Multiversus. I know a lot of people that are technically proficient in terms of data science and things like that. And I said, so if we can get Parsec for Multiversus, I'm sure we could get Parsec for Season 5. I'm sure that I could make that happen. But that's not the point. I think that if the game does well in Season 5 in terms of balancing and in terms of giving the people what they actually wanted, people will be even more sad, but then again, they might show a little bit more hype for, you know, what they've wanted for the past 9 months, or whether it be since May, since it released in May. It would be kind of almost like a backhanded compliment, if you would say, oh, here's everything you actually wanted for the game for so long, but you're not gonna be able to play it for much longer, so yeah, there you go. We're gone now.
Well, how do you feel about the potential of something like, are you familiar with Project M? You familiar with what that was?
I'm not.
So it's essentially, once the game is dead and they've washed their hands with it, how do you feel about what if the community and engineers in the community started to develop for the game and fix some of the things that are broken with it, and maybe make some adjustments and add features that you're looking for, to where basically the community takes over for like maintaining and creating content for the game? How would you feel about something like that?
Well, that sounds like a really cool idea conceptually. The problem with possibly taking those developmental skills to the point where it could be an online game again, in my perspective, doesn't exist, and I'll tell you why. Warner Brothers has so much IP tied into this game that even if they would think about something like that on a corporate level, whether it be selling it to another dev team to work on it, they just wouldn't do it. They wouldn't want to release those IPs and have another company control how their perspective affects those people that play and are interested in those IPs outside of the game. If devs on the player side were to develop the game and crack it to make updates, I think that would be fantastic. But that would be just, you know, the tightest knit members of the community still holding on to something that they had lost. I don't think that it could develop the game back into something that we really wanted to see for it. Now, do I think that possibly Multiversus might do the thing that they did in beta again? I really don't know. For a little bit of context on that, when the beta closed, it was abrupt as well. and then they waited a little bit over a year to re-release it. Some people have speculated, oh, the game's not dead, they're just going to do the same thing that they did last time. It really just depends, considering they've lost a lot of money. And overall, I think Warner Brothers Games, I read an article, I think it's like $150 million that Warner Brothers Games has lost in the past few recent years. They're just burning money. At the end of the day, the game was burning money because of the time and effort it took, mostly, to introduce and produce the IPs within the game.
Well, if someone like you, right? So you built up your channel, and a lot of like your community is built around this game, right? What do you think the chances are of players who maybe got introduced to competitive play or found a home in this game? What do you think the odds are that they will maybe try another game? Like, Smash Brothers is the obvious comparison, but maybe something else, maybe like Street Fighter 6 or something else like that. And they can find, kind of pivot their interest to one of those kind of competitive titles to more or less satisfy the competitive drive that they felt in this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that joined multiverses as their first platform fighter. I know it really brought a lot of people into the platform fighter scene with all of those IPs and how it looked. There are a lot of tournament players now that do play other games, whether it be like Rivals of Ether was one that got a little bit of hype alongside multiverses in a different way that people had liked to play. Some people are just leaving the platform fighter scene altogether. Like, I have friends that are like, oh, I'm gonna go back to streaming COD, I'm gonna go back to streaming Fortnite, I'm gonna go back to playing just other games, This platform fighter was their main game for so long that kind of just leaves a bad taste in their mouth that their time is wasted, and they've kind of planned to move on to other things.
What do you think were the biggest missteps with this entire fiasco?
Oof, I could talk for hours on that. I'll try to give a comprehensive timeline from official release of the game. So, right, at the beginning, game drops officially. Oh, yay, Multiversus is back. So much fun. We're going to have all the fun that we had in the beta. No, you're not. Shut up. The game is slower. The game is missing a lot of the very simple aspects that it had in the beta. Something as simple as like post-game match stats, like your KOs and your damage. Like I said, a very, very minimal MVP, minimum viable product. They released the game and it was super underwhelming for a lot of the community. You saw the player count drop dramatically. I think if we looked at Steam charts in that moment, it went from the 150,000 or so peak that it had in beta to like maybe 20,000, right? And people, as they continue to play, noticing huge imbalance, whether it be in the side of hitboxes, whether it be a bad UI. It just continues to show the people that play the game that they're not listening. There were problems with UI, there were problems with the balancing, there were problems with the characters, there were problems with, there wasn't even ranked when the game released, right? We had to wait a full season until ranked came out. And the movement was the biggest thing that was a problem for a lot of these people, because transitioning from the beta to the full release, the movement was like molasses. People were zipping and zooming in the beta, and then you play the official release and you're moving at a snail's pace. And for people that are in the competitive scene, they want fast-paced gameplay. They want people to be able to make cool combos, but you can't have an exciting fighting game with slow movement. It just doesn't really exist.
Now, hold on.
I would just say in terms of the multiversus context, I wouldn't go into mention like Shamsha and other things, because they have their thing going and it's completely different. And so as we look at the different patch notes and as we look at when they release characters, their character selection was the thing that was going to save the game from all of its problems, right? And with every release, I want to say without fail, every single one with the exception of maybe one, which was Beetlejuice, they released, a lot of games do this, but this was just on another level. The release of these characters was the most broken thing you had ever seen. And that's just to call a little bit onto the most recent release, which was Marceline the Vampire Queen. Absolutely astounding. Like, every time they would release a new character, there would be a loop. There would be, you know, 0 to deaths. There would be just crazy, crazy things. And this happened without fail for every single character. It's like they didn't even test their own game. So a lot of that hype that you would get from that new release, from that new character that is coming to the game, would bring a little bit of new people in, but for the people that were already playing the game, it was a nightmare.